Fire Emblem Three Houses is one of the most unique games in the entire series. Whether that's for better or for worse, it's up to you. Since its release back in 2019, it's become one of the most debated games in Fire Emblem history. For some, they think it's the greatest game in the series and their favorite, and for others, they think it strays way too far from classic Fire Emblem. I'm around the middle, and I can understand both sides. Three Houses introduced an absurd number of new mechanics. Some completely changed how Fire Emblem is played. Some were improvements that I hope become series staples, and others I hope never come back.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
Hey guys, it's Peshcats, here to fulfill our contract. Today, let's rank all of the weird, janky mechanics in Fire Emblem Three Houses, giving each one a letter grade from E to S on a tier list. Alright, so first up we got the calendar, right? I think this is the backbone of Three Houses. Almost every mechanic we're going to talk about later branches off of this one. One thing I've always liked about classic Fire Emblem is how linear it is. You beat a chapter, you move on to the next one, maybe you spend some time on battle preps or the base for some downtime, and then we move on, you know? Strategy, linear, resource management, limited time, limited resources, let's go. But other games like Sacred Stones or Awakening introduce a world map, and most of that freedom I don't really like in a strategy game, you know what I'm saying? That's never really been my thing. Three Houses fixes that by adding downtime between chapters, but putting that downtime on a schedule. Every weekend you have to decide how you're spending your free day. Do you want to explore? Do you want to battle? Do you want to rest? Do you hold a seminar? You can't do everything, so every decision has an opportunity cost, which is what a strategy game should all be about, so it's awesome. I mean, bro, this game got me scheduling my Sundays like I got a midterm on Monday, man. That's just how it feels because there's something you gotta prepare for at the end of every month. And that's why I actually like this calendar more than Persona's. Persona's calendar is day by day, so if you ever reload a save or replay a section, you're clicking through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, it can really slow the pacing down. Three Houses bundles everything into one weekend instead. You make your decisions, the month moves forward, and it keeps the game flowing while still giving you that same feeling of planning ahead. More importantly, the calendar is what makes all of these mechanics feel connected that we're going to talk about later in the tier list. Motivation, Instruct, Paralogues, exploring monasteries, stuff we're going to get into later, they only work because the calendar forces you to make choices with the limited time and resources you have instead of just letting you grind forever. And that really stays with the spirit of Fire Emblem as a strategy game. It's one of those mechanics where if you took it out of the game, everything that you like about this game probably disappears because it really contributes to that. And so I'm going to put this in S tier because I think it is beautifully implemented with the spirit of strategy in Fire Emblem. Alright, so next up is Instruct. The reason I love Instruct so much is because I love setting goals in RPGs. Whenever I play Pokemon, I'm planning out what moves I want each Pokemon to learn, their evolutions. When I play Persona, I think about which Personas I want to fuse and my party members' Personas moves. In Octopath Traveler, I love planning which job skills I want to unlock next, creating the best builds. And so obviously in Fire Emblem, I love planning as well, planning their classes, planning their equip skills. I like planning an entire roadmap, you know, and I'm sure all of you do too. I honestly spend an embarrassing amount of time just staring at the goal screen instead of actually pressing buttons in this game. Not even playing the game, you know. Bro, I'm opening Excel in my head to play Fire Emblem, basically. And I actually think the limited time from the calendar is what makes this mechanic so much better than most RPGs. In a normal RPG, if I fall behind on a goal, I can usually just grind for another hour. Here, I can't. That's why I like Fire Emblem so much. Every instruction session matters because there are only so many weeks before the next exam or the next chapter. In a normal Fire Emblem game, you're like, okay, I only get so many maps, right? So many turns. It makes the planning feel meaningful instead of inevitable. That being said, I don't actually love the Instruct minigame itself. Most of it is just holding the A button, hoping you get a perfect instead of a good, and watching your students do the same little animations over and over again. It's goofy as hell, man. I'm gonna be real here. What the fuck? I wish there was a little bit more player control over the perfects and the greats instead of them feeling random because it kind of messes up your planning a little bit. Honestly, that's a really small complaint. I love everything this mechanic encourages. It rewards planning, it rewards thinking ahead, and it gives every single character their own development path. Great idea, but it could have been executed a little bit better in the presentation aspect. So yeah, that's why it's a top of A tier instead of S tier. Okay, next up is motivation. In order to teach your students every week, they actually need to be motivated. If you're not, they won't get the full benefit from your instruction sessions. And I think this is a really smart mechanic because it ties the monastery directly back into your long-term planning with the calendar. There are a bunch of different ways to raise motivation, right? You can make someone the MVP of a battle. You can increase your support point with Byleth. You can answer questions correctly during the week, give them gifts, but the one you're going to use the most is sharing meals. Sharing meals is basically the glue that holds the monastery together. Not only does it restore motivation for 2 units at once, but also raises support between them, raises support with Byleth, and gives you another reason to actually care about your ingredients. However, I will admit that it is really annoying sifting through all of the meal options and finding one that they like, and then having to sit through their stupid anime animations again. It's chill though, it's chill. I also like that it makes you prioritize, like if I'm only using 10 or 12 units this run, I'm not trying to motivate all 30 students, right? And I only have this limited number of explore points, hourglass points anyways. I'm looking at my core team and thinking, alright, who actually needs tutoring this week for their goals? It makes your choices feel deliberate instead of just checking every box. At the end of the day though, motivation is not meant to be a flashy mechanic. It doesn't reinvent the game or anything, it's just a really solid system that connects the calendar, the monastery, and Instruct together. It does exactly what it needs to do as a system, and honestly, I don't really have any complaints about how it's implemented. It is a role player that needs to be there for the stars to shine, and so I'm going to put it in C tier. Battalions are next up. Okay, this is one of the mechanics that immediately makes Three Houses feel different from every other Fire Emblem game. Instead of every unit just running around by themselves, now everybody commands a small battalion. You can actually see it when you zoom in on the map and you get to walk around. Not only do they give you stat boosts, but they also unlock Gambits, which we'll talk about in a second. But what I really like is how they change the atmosphere of the game. Fire Emblem has always been about commanding an army, but most of the time you're really just moving around 12 or 15 anime boys and girls. Battalions make it look like you're actually leading an army. Watching everybody charge in with their own soldiers behind them just makes the battles feel so much grander. And from a gameplay perspective, they're interesting too. Every battalion has different stats, different endurance, different gambits, and different ranks you need to equip them. It gives you another layer of customization without feeling overwhelming. Something else I really like is how they're rewarded. Most of the best battalions in the game come from the harder Paralogues, so when you beat one of those harder optional maps, it actually feels worth it. You're not just getting a cool weapon, you might be getting a battalion that's going to stay on your team for the rest of the playthrough. All of my battalions from the end of the game were ones that earned from Paralogues. Now, from a gameplay perspective, one of my favorite things about battalions is that it's not very oversaturated, right? You can equip it on and off of everybody, and each one has its own things, and you can level up individually. I actually like to compare it to the skill system in Radiant Dawn, that you kind of get to like take these important things and put it on whoever you deem best with it without getting way too oversaturated with the system. It's not too complex, unlike a lot of the other things that we're going to be ranking on this tier list. And that is the main reason I'm going to put it in A tier. Coming up, we have monsters, and I think monsters are one of the most interesting additions in Three Houses because they don't just add a new enemy type, they change how you approach the game as a whole. So unlike normal enemies, monsters take up multiple tiles, have several health bars, and have shields that you need to break before you can really deal with them efficiently. You can chip away at those shields with normal attacks, but the most efficient way to do it is with Gambits, which we'll talk about next. And that's what I like about monsters a lot. They just justify the existence of a bunch of other mechanics, right? Gambits become important because of monsters. Forging becomes more important because monsters drop all of the ore you need. Effective monster weapons like the Blessed Lance and using stuff like Seraphim or any attack from Hoppy actually have a purpose. Even Brawling gets to shine because you get to like crit 4 times and get like a 130 HP health bar down. Throwing hands with dinosaurs, bro. I gotta hand it to him. I also like them from a lore perspective. They're not just random giant beasts for the sake of having a boss fight. Some are corrupted by hero relics, some are creations of the Agarthans, and others tie directly into the church and Fodlan's history. It makes them feel like they belong in the world, and it gives them a certain mystique. I know I got chills the first time I saw those like yellow totem things. I forgot what they're called.
6, 7.
That being said, breaking all of your shields in one turn is incredibly satisfying. It's got that same feeling as breaking an enemy in Octopath Traveler or Expedition 33. You spend a whole turn setting it up and then everything clicks. But at the same time, fighting monsters can also be kind of repetitive. Most of the strategy is front-loaded into breaking their shields, and after that you're usually just dumping damage into a giant health bar. They're rarely the enemies I'm most scared of either. Half of the time I'm way more worried about the random Swordmaster with 60 crits sitting behind them, because they really don't do that much damage. I do like some of the little interactions though. Monster AoE hits can actually hit other monsters, which is always funny to me, especially in maps like Marianne's Paralogue where they're all packed together. Overall, I think monsters are a good addition. They make Three Houses feel different, they create interesting synergies with a bunch of other mechanics, and you can even see later on their influence with engages multiple health bar bosses that might return in Fortune's Weave as well. I don't love fighting them every single time, but I'm definitely glad they're in the game, so I will give them a solid B tier. So going hand in hand with monsters and battalions, we have Gambits up next. This is probably the mechanic people think of first when they think about Three Houses. Instead of a normal attack, every battalion comes with its own gambit, right? They're powerful AoE attacks, and that's a little bit controversial because Fire Emblem rarely ever sees AoE attacks. The best we have is like a Savage Blow in Fates, which doesn't really count. I don't think so. I actually think that's why, you know, it's a little bit debatable, and I get a little touchy about the subject too because it's just so new with the one-on-one classic Fire Emblem that we're all used to. But since this game has monsters, it is a necessary evil. I actually think that's why Gambits exist in the first place. If monsters weren't in this game, I don't think Gambits would be in this game either. And I also do like how they reward positioning. Lining up like a Blaze or Assault troop to hit 4 or 5 enemies at once is really satisfying. And nothing brings a Fire Emblem player more joy than seeing that lined up perfect player or enemy phase, you know what I'm saying? My only complaint is that because monsters rely so heavily on gambits, they sometimes stop feeling like a strategic option and start feeling like a requirement. You're not really asking, should I use a gambit? You're like, okay. Which gambit am I burning this turn? Let's use it. And the other gripe I have is that it's so annoying when the enemy uses gambits because it just stops your movement, it decreases all your stats. It's like, it's actually, I would actually compare it to enemies using status staves in like the Tellius or the GBA titles. It's just that annoying, and it also reckons similarly you need to use a restore stave on that. Still, I think they're a great addition overall. They make positioning feel more interesting, they make battles feel bigger, and they fit the whole military theme of Three Houses pretty good, so easy B2. Now, a lot of people think AoE attacks are an attack against classic Fire Emblem fundamental, the fundies, you know what I'm saying? But what we're going to cover next is an even stronger attack on your fundies, and that is the lack of a weapon triangle. Ever since the dawn of time, the very first thing you learn as a Fire Emblem player is the weapon triangle. Now, before someone runs to the comments saying, actually, the weapon triangle still exists because of Swordbreaker. Yeah, bro, I know, technically those skills are still in the game. A lot of the enemies, most of the enemies have it, but they're abilities that you have to unlock and equip, and games in the past have had the triangle and the Swordbreaker Axebreaker skills both. So I'm not talking about the breaker skills, they don't count because the triangle itself is not a core mechanic to your gameplay anymore. And honestly, I get why they did it. In a game where anybody can become almost any class and use almost any weapon, a traditional weapon triangle doesn't really make as much sense. In the past, if you can wield multiple weapons, you get weapon triangle advantage, and that was really good for you. But in this game, everybody can wield every weapon. So, you know, if everybody can just swap weapons whenever they want, the triangle loses a lot of its edge. So instead, Three Houses push those advantages with the breaker skills and all of the other skills, and it's quite different. From a design perspective, I think that's the right decision, and it was a necessary evil. But from my old head Fire Emblem perspective, I still miss it, man. It just doesn't feel right. It's like teaching somebody basketball and then telling them, oh yeah, you don't gotta dribble anymore, bro. Just travel. And you know what I'm saying? He's just like, where are your fundies? Where are your fundies? It's like fighting like Steven Kazuya players in Smash, you know, where are your fundies? I also really hope Fortune's Weave brings the triangle back. I'm completely fine with reclassing staying around because it was done nice with like partner seals, heart seals, and like fates and stuff, but I need the weapon locks. I need the weapon triangles, and It's just your fundies, bro. This is literally the first thing. It's like your baby doesn't need to learn how to walk anymore because it can fly now. You know what I'm saying? Like, that being said, I don't think it's fair to put this in E tier because, like I said, it is a necessary evil, right? It just wouldn't work in a game like this. Three Houses was trying to do something different. I really do respect it, and I like the game that they produced with it a lot. I like how it turned out. So once you're committed to letting everything come, just like settling, get that old head mentality out, like I said, necessary evil. So I'm gonna put it in D tier. I don't hate the decision. It works in this game, but you know, obviously most people don't like this. Now, while Three Houses was busy removing one classic weapon mechanic, it also introduced an entirely new weapon, brawling. So instead of your swords, lance, axes, knives, bows, tomes, now you can literally just run up and beat the shit out of someone with your fists. The thing that makes brawling unique is that it's basically brave weapons built into an entire weapon type. You're constantly doubling up on your attacks, and once you stack things like Death Blow, use stuff like Combat Art's Fierce Iron Fist, or just a high crit rate, or use Relics' personal, you know? Seeing an entirely new weapon type was pretty refreshing. That being said, I don't have that strong of an opinion on this. Fates gave knives their own unique identity with all the debuffs they inflicted, and brawling does the same thing here with its brave style gameplay. It's cool, it's fun, and it fits Three Houses pretty well considering the high HP monsters. I just don't really think it's something the series absolutely needs going forward, which is totally fine. I'm gonna put this at the middle of C tier. So brawling isn't too big of a change, but next up we have an absolutely massive change, and that is the promotion and class change rework that we have. It is very, very different than what you have in your classic Fire Emblem, where you hit level 10 and use a promotion item like a Hero Crest or Knight Crest, Master Seal, whatever, and you decide when the best time it is to promote after that. And that decision is usually a huge part of Fire Emblem, right? Every single Fire Emblem game. Do I promote now for the immediate stat boost, or do I wait until level 20 to squeeze out a few more level ups? You know, every game handles it a little different. Radiant Dawn, for example, still my favorite game, most of your units automatically promote at level 20, and you even get that third tier classes. That's my favorite promotion system, but Three Houses is also one of my favorite promotion systems for an entirely different reason. Instead, every 5 or 10 levels, an entirely new pool of classes opens up. You have your beginners at 5, intermediate at 10, advanced at 20, and master at 30. Instead of just thinking, I want Renown to become a paladin, which is your goal for him, now you're planning an entire journey where it's like, okay, I need him to get Brigand for Death Blow, and then I need him to get Wrath at Warrior, and then I need him to get like this and that and that, and it's a really big plan, but every single plan usually ends up at Wyvern Lord, or Wyvern Master, sorry. Yeah, a huge portion of this game was just me staring at the class screen with like the different types of classes and then planning everything out, you know, Excel in my head. Once again, and that's where this ties back into Instruct with the synergy with that mechanic. You're not raising weapon ranks for the sake of raising them. You're doing it because you have a destination in mind. Every lesson, every exam, every point of motivation is feeding into this long-term plan you've built for that character. Now, I do think there's one downside. It also takes away yet another really big piece of Fire Emblem fundies, which is leveling up. Usually you're so excited to see your units level up and see if their level up is going to be good based on their growth rates, but with the class change, since you get these class bonuses, just like in Echoes when you class change, it begins to matter a lot less. If you get a bad level up, that's fine because your class change bonus will just get you right back up there. And for a lot of players, including me, this also incentivized me to hoard all of my stat boosters until everybody reached their final mastery class that they're in, because I feel like I would be wasting them if the class bonus would just give it anyways. But that doesn't stop me from loving the system because it still fills out its purpose of giving you that long planning destination and setting your goals and allowing you to reach your goals and the satisfaction that comes from that. And that's a really big part of this game that I really like. Yeah, half of the mechanics in this game only work as well as they do because you have this class mastery system as a North Star goal for all of your units to reach, and that's why I'm going to put this in S tier. However, in order to unlock all of these nice classes as you have to go through an exam. So next up we have passing exams. This one's pretty straightforward, right? Instead of automatically promoting once you hit the right level, you actually have to sit through an exam, each one of your units, and if you meet the weapon rank requirements, you're guaranteed to pass. If you're a little short, you've got like a little percentage, and it always feels nice when you pass the exam even though you didn't. Like, it's basically the real life equivalent of like not studying for the test but still acing it. And I won't lie, every time I saw that like low pass rate, I was sweating a little, but there is a way you can save abuse this, obviously. So sometimes the system's pretty flawed because you can do that. But passing the exam is really just a payoff for all of the planning you've already done, and I would be lying if I said it wasn't satisfying when they get those like stat boosts. So I'm going to put passing exams in B tier. You could argue lower because of the flaws, the save abuse, and the fact that it takes away your fundies a little bit with the level ups and the growth rates, but I mean, it's fine. So next up we have class mastery, the fact that apart from your normal XP bar, you also have an entirely different XP bar. Well, I guess a third one because you already have one for your battalion, but you have a third one now for your class. And it's pretty cool because you're not looking at the class itself when you're thinking of class changing, but what you can pick up from it. So instead of just promoting to the strongest class as soon as possible, you're constantly asking yourself, is there anything else I want to pick up? Can I pick this up from this class, right? Am I able to get Fiendish class from Mage first? Can I get Uncanny Blow from Valkyrie first, you know? Stuff like that. Can I get Drawback and Magic +2 from Monk before I promote? Like, I'm just sending people into classes that I don't even want them to be in just to steal one ability and then just dip. Now, this isn't the first game to do this. In Fates, for example, sometimes you go into Myrmidon just for Vantage and then dip, or you go into Hero just for Soul and then dip, right? But I think the way Three Houses does it is really, really nice because you can literally reclass on the spot, which is very, very useful quality of life. I do quite like it. It's just a really nice system that allows you to plan each one of your units as your professor, you know, make your students excel the best that they can. And it's just really fun to play around with all of these classes, because if this didn't exist, then the whole anybody can be any class thing might as well not even exist. Now, I do think there is one downside, and that is how easy class mastery is to cheese. Depending on who you're talking to, might not be a downside, because it actually makes you feel kind of like a genius while you're doing it. So if you've played Maddening before, you've probably done the classic strategy where you stride your units, you go into like a random auxiliary battle and you stride your units, right? And then you kill everything except for an archer, and then the archer can't attack you at one range, it's only 2 free range. So you just surround the archer. The class mastery bar goes up whether or not you've taken or dealt damage. So you can literally just surround the archer and then hit somebody at free range and then have them just miss arrows over and over and over again for like 90 turns until you master the class. I've done this for literally every single class mastery. Like, that sniper just became my unpaid intern. Then after we kill him, after we're done using him, we kill him. It feels like a really big war crime. But I mean, it's funny, but it also means you can completely master a class in a single auxiliary battle, right? So that kind of defeats the whole purpose of slowly progressing through these classes over the course of a playthrough, if that's what Nintendo originally intended. But honestly, I don't think that's enough to stop me from loving it. Planning out a character's entire journey from chapter 1 to the endgame is one of my favorite parts of Three Houses, and class mastery is the mechanic that makes all of that possible, so that's why I'm putting it in A tier. Okay, now it's time for us to talk about combat arts. I'm actually going to split these into 2 different categories because I think they serve completely different purposes. So first, let's talk about the damage-focused combat arts, as opposed to the non-damage ones, because I think they're so different that we need to separate them. So this is one of the biggest additions Three Houses made to combat, even though I know they were already in Echoes, but Three Houses just expanded on them so much. Instead of just attacking normally every turn, every unit now has access to special attacks that trade weapon durability for extra damage, accuracy, crit, or some other bonus. I actually think they're pretty cool. They make player phase a lot more interesting because now you have another option besides just swinging your weapon normally. But I also think most of them just aren't worth using. There are a handful that are incredible, like Swift Strikes, Vengeance, Hunter's Volley, Point Blank Volley, but once you've played the game a few times, you kind of realize you're using the same 10 combat arts, or even less over and over again, while the other 50 just sit there. And usually the other 50 are pretty cool, but they just aren't as good, and you only get free slots. So while I like the mechanic itself, I don't think the execution is perfect. The gap between the best and the worst combat arts is just way too big. It's like, oh, let's go, Ferdinand got Swift Strikes, yay. It's like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel as good as like passing a Wyvern exam or getting like quick riposte, mastering quick riposte, right? But it's still pretty solid. I'm going to put this in C tier.
What?
You might think it's a little low, but hear me out, all right? Hear me out, because now we're gonna go to the non-damaging combat arts, because those are a completely different story. The utility combat arts are one of my favorite mechanics in any Fire Emblem game. I absolutely love them. Things like reposition, draw back, shove, smite. These are the kinds of mechanics I absolutely love in Fire Emblem. I say this all the time, but movement is king in strategy games, or strategy RPGs. Anything that lets you manipulate positioning is almost always going to be more interesting than just adding another 10 points of damage. Push somebody onto a forest tile, shove your dancer forward, reposition out of the danger zone. It just feels like every map turns into a really fun movement puzzle. And if you were to hear me say that Fire Emblem Three Houses has better movement than some platformers, then y'all might be shocked, but there are some pretty ass platformers out there. So, unlike the damage combat arts, I found myself constantly discovering new uses for these throughout the game. They reward creativity instead of just bigger numbers. They also fit perfectly with everything else Three Houses is trying to do, between the synergy of Super Canto, warp spells, rescuing, dancing, and all of these movement arts. With the non-damage combat arts, you have so many easy ways to manipulate the battlefield, and there's also other things like healing focus. And since we're on the topic of movement, I have to include talking about stride in here as well, because oh my goodness, what a gambit. You might find it weird that I'm including it in this section instead of the Gambit section, but since we're already splitting the damage combat arts, I thought I'd split the damage Gambits as well, and so it lies right in here. I probably should have done damage Gambits and non-damage Gambits, but Stride and I guess Retribution is the only ones to talk about, so I just decided to shoehorn it into our movement combat arts here because it's basically one of those. And given the amount of times you're going to be using reposition, drawback, shove in tandem with Stride all of the time, it just makes sense. And wow, it is just amazing. I don't even think I need to explain myself here. Just adding 5 movement to such a large pool, it's just so fun and allows for so much great strategic chessboard movement. And then there's also the nice balancing drawback of only having 2 uses, and the person that you give Stride to won't have a damaging gambit and won't have any of the attacking benefits. So it's a good trade-off. So I'm gonna put this easily as an S tier.
I'm over here stroking my...
These are the kinds of mechanics I'd love to see come back in future Fire Emblem games, and I really hope that Fortune's Wave has movement tech just as good as this. Next up, we got one that a lot of you have probably been waiting for. New Game Plus, baby! Hot take, I generally think Three Houses has the best New Game Plus of any video game I've played. Now, that might sound kind of diabolical, but hear me out. The reason is because it doesn't just let you replay the game stronger, it lets you replay the game differently. Throughout your first playthrough, you're constantly earning Renown. You spend some of it on saint statues or the pagan altar, but whatever you don't spend carries over into New Game Plus. Then, the fun begins. On your New Game Plus playthrough, all of your professor levels, your saint statue prowesses, they all carry forward, and you can spend Renown to instantly unlock weapon ranks, class masteries, professor levels, and support ranks that you've already earned before. So you can pull up to Chapter 2 with Ferdinand having Lance Fair S plus lances, or you can pull up to Chapter 2 with Quick Riposte, you know what I mean? And I think this works so well because Three Houses is a game you're naturally going to replay. Between the different houses, different routes, different recruits, different builds, New Game Plus doesn't replace progression, it just lets you build on the work you've already done. And it really helps balance maddening mode. Because you might think New Game Plus is a little too broken, but given how difficult maddening is, I actually think it's literally the perfect Fire Emblem difficulty. I think there are a few difficulties that I would prefer to New Game Plus Maddening in Three Houses, and that would be like Conquest Hard Mode, Radiant Dawn Hard Mode, Hector Hard Mode. It's a tough toss-up between what I think the perfect Fire Emblem difficulty is, but this definitely deserves a shout. It also allows you to work on goals that you might not have attained in the new game playthrough. So my first maddening run on Crimson Flower, my goal was to just get Ferdinand to Wyvern Lord of Strift Strikes, right? And I got that. But on New Game Plus, we can now try for Alert Stance Plus, we can now try for Lance Fair, stuff like that. Completely different, and it was nice to get. It lets your goals evolve instead of making you start from scratch every single time. I also love that it lets you recruit characters you missed before by buying support ranks. Suddenly you're playing Paralogues you've never seen before and experimenting with completely different teams, with completely different stories with your route splits. And that's the main thing why New Game Plus in this game is so good, because no playthrough is like the other, literally, in all sense, gameplay sense, story sense. There are some games out there that have a New Game Plus, but there isn't that much new content when you click it. Maybe you get like an extra boss fight or two. This is just so nice, and it's actually the first time Fire Emblem has specifically called your new playthrough a New Game Plus. We've had second playthrough bonuses before, notably the logbook in Fates, or unlocking Hector mode after you complete Elliewood mode, and also unlocking the new endings and new characters when you play Radiant Dawn for the second time. But never something like this, and I think it's brilliant, so I'm gonna put it in S tier. Now, I'm also gonna talk about how Renown works itself and rank that on this tier list. I think it is a very elegant currency. You're constantly earning it through side activities, quests, and monastery progression, kind of like your professor rank as well, and because it carries across playthroughs, it actually feels more valuable than gold does. It's one of those systems where you're almost happy to get more of it always, right? And at the end of every playthrough of Three Houses, I always go to the pagan altar and give all of it to the Dagdan deity statue in Abyss, because it gives you renown that you can carry forward, so he gets all my meat.
What did he say?
And all of my veggies. Okay, you get the point, right? I like it. It's a solid B tier. Okay, next up in Three Houses, we have Three Houses. Literally the Three Houses themselves. Or I guess you can call them the route split instead. Fire Emblem has done route splits before with like Ephraim Erica and FE8, Birthright Conquest, even FE6 Ilya Sakai split. But those all happened during the game. Three Houses asks you to make that decision right at the very beginning, so it's more like choosing a box legendary in a Pokemon game. I think that's really interesting because it gives the game an insane amount of replayability, right? It also fits the story perfectly and the setting. Three Houses has a really politically complex world, and no single route gives you the whole picture. You have to play all four before you really... Okay, you don't have to play all four, but like you have to play more than one before you really understand everyone's perspective. Now, there's also a downside of that. Sometimes you finish your first route and become an absolute propaganda machine for your house, and that's okay, you know? That's chill if you roll like that, you know? I played Blue Lions my first playthrough, and I fucking hated Edelgard, but then I played Crimson Flower, and I was like, yo, she that has got a point, you know what I mean? So yeah, this fanbase got actual political parties, bro. God damn. But seriously, I think seeing all those different perspectives is one of the game's biggest strengths. It encourages replayability without feeling forced, and it teaches you from like a literacy level to be open-minded of all opinions and to not think too strongly until you see the whole picture. So I'm gonna put this easily in A tier, and I just love that like synergizing New Game Plus as well gives you a genuinely different experience every time. It feels like 4 games in 1. Okay, next up we have the Recruitment Rework in this game. This is one of those mechanics where my opinion actually changed while I was making this video. At first I was gonna put this in C tier and kind of forget about it, because classic Fire Emblem recruitment is one of my favorite parts of the series. Every few chapters you meet somebody new, figure out how to recruit them, and suddenly you've got another tool to play with. And sometimes it's a really powerful tool, like you're recruiting Har, or Harken, Jafar, Volk for the first time. It's just awesome. So Three Houses obviously can't do that because you're with the same class for basically the entire game. So recruitment had to be reworked a little. Instead of recruiting people on the battlefield, you're recruiting classmates around the monastery. And at first, I really missed the old system and I hated this new one, I'm gonna be honest. But then I realized something. Every single student has different recruiting requirements, right? So some care about sword rank, others want bows, heavy armor, charm, magic, whatever, right? And suddenly Byleth has goals too. That's what I realized. You can set your goals and your planning for Byleth, because you can't instruct him, right? So you can't do his class. But these are goals that you can set for Byleth. Up until now, almost all of your planning has been focused on your students, but now you got a development plan for Byleth. I also like that recruitment changes depending on when you recruit somebody. I think that's a really nice detail that people don't talk about too much. Waiting a few chapters means they'll come with better stats, better weapon ranks, and sometimes even a different class. So it's a small detail, but it's a strategic decision if you're forced to deploy somebody in Paralogue and you want them to be less of a liability. Do I still miss classic recruitment? Yeah, absolutely. But like I said before, some things are necessary evils, and I think they handled this evil really well and kind of even vanquished the evil. Even because I really liked how this turned into your development plan for Byleth. So I'm actually going to put this in A tier. I thought recruiting was super fun. Now let's talk about anybody being able to become your dancer. It's an interesting change. Dancers were always their own dedicated class and character, but here anybody can become one if they win the White Heron Club. So you kind of have to think about who's the best to become a dancer, and it's usually somebody who can contribute if they're out of range of dancing, or they can do something once they've already spent their turn with dancing, like passively. So Dorothea or Flane's like passive abilities allows them to contribute in other ways. I think it's kind of cool, and the White Heron Cup was always a really memorable moment in this game for, I think, everybody. I'm gonna put this in C tier. Next up we have Paralogues. Three Houses has my favorite implementation of Paralogues and / guidance chapters in the series. I've always liked guidance chapters in Fire Emblem, and I think that's why they work so well for me in this game. They feel less like random side missions here and more like optional stories that naturally fit into your playthrough with rewards that you would actually want. The biggest criticism people have of Three Houses is that it reuses a lot of maps though, and I do agree with that. That's fair. But I actually think the Paralogues do a really good job making those maps feel different through their objectives. They have some really unique objectives sometimes. You've got maps where you're racing to save villagers, escorting units. Like, remember the death toll, the Ignats? Bro, that shit was so goofy. The villagers were lined up in literally like a straight 100-meter dash for the demonic beast, bro. And then you got Marianne's like Jurassic Park-ass Paralogue, and then you got the turtle. Remember the fucking turtle? I also love how they're built into the calendar. You have to actually plan when you're going to do them because they have deadlines. There's also the rewards that the Paralogues give. The best battalions, heroes, relics, sacred weapons, a lot of the strongest stuff in the entire game comes from Paralogues. So they feel actually worth doing, which is really, really nice. So I'm going to put this in A tier. And something else that I'll probably also put in A tier is the hero relics and the sacred weapons. I love these things. Every relic feels unique. They all have their own combat art, their own history, and they're tied directly to the characters and the lore of Woodland. They're not just, this sword has 5 more might than the last one. Every relic actually feels legendary. They also look pretty sick. I also like the little gameplay trade-off they introduce. If someone without the right crest uses it, it damages them a little bit. It's small, because it doesn't really give off the crest trade-off, but we'll talk about this when we talk about crests later into the tier list. My favorite relics and sacred weapons were the ones that actually weren't weapons, they were the staves, bands. The Versus Caduceus staff, absolutely broken on Lysithia and whoever you make your Dark Flyer. And then you have Aegis shield. Most people think it's ass, but I actually really like it. I like how the Sacred Weapon Hero Relics plays on whoever has the crest, because on some ambush spawns, it definitely saved my Lysithia and Flame, Aegis and Pavise. My favorite hero relic, though, is the Fetters of Dromi, because what I do with my dancer every playthrough is I give them boots, and then I give them movement +1 after getting A+ riding, and then I give them the Fetters of Dromi. And so now I have a dancer of 10 movement who can also canto. I'm gonna go ahead and put the hero relics in A tier. They just sick, bro. They sick as fuck. I love these things.
Yes, Daddy.
Okay, now we're gonna talk about Explore and Hourglass points. This is where you restore motivation, build supports, recruit students, unlock side quests, just like walking around the monastery itself. I also like how it changes throughout the game. Every month, the dialogue updates, the monastery reflects what's happening in the story, and it makes Garrick Mach feel pretty lively. I know some people think it's repetitive, and after 4 yeah, it is. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. It's fucking repetitive, bro. And like, I wish the map worked better. But I have to say that it's still a pretty nice place. By the way, I think in my hundreds of hours in this game, I never once tilt the camera up because I was walking forward. And so I did it once to try it, to look at the sky, and I saw these GBA looking ass pixelated. Oh shit, bro. Guys, I'm gonna be honest, the game's graphics are kind of ass, and it kind of shows in a monastery, but that's okay.
He was whipping up shit in a kettle, boiling shit, actual shit.
I'm gonna put it in B tier. Okay, hey, this video is getting really long. We need to speed up on these. Now it's time for a lightning round. Are you ready, guys? Gifts. I actually like the gifts a lot because they're basically the emergency button. You need your support to go up pronto. Bang. Motivation. Bang. Just bribe your students. I'm putting this in C tier. Lost items. I fucking hate this shit. You walk around and pick up a sock. Whose sock is this? Let's go give it back. I'm good, bro. E tier. Fuck this shit. Choir. Faith rank. Professor XP. You can sing. I don't know, bro. D tier. Fishing, I'm putting in E tier. I fucking hate fishing. I know it's useful, it gets your professor rank up and you get like, a bunch of good cooking stuff, but I don't want to fucking fish, bro. I want to play Fire Emblem. Fuck fishing. It never gives me the right fish that I want anyways. Cooking, D tier. Nice little stat boost, nice way to use ingredients. It's basically the same as Fate's cooking.
He was whipping up.
Group tasks, D tier. You get a little bit of money, you get some smithing stones, you know, you can pair some guys together and see some funny dialogue. Group projects, bro. Group project. Saint statues. B tier, I actually love these. Spending Renown on permanent upgrades feels great, especially because they carry into New Game Plus. You get more divine pulses, you get more skill growth and shit, you know what I say, nice system. Seminars. Every playthrough I tell myself maybe I'll use the seminars this time. I never do, because explore and battle are always the better options. D tier. T. Yes, the fucking Gooner mechanic in this game, because every single Fire Emblem game needs to have a Gooner mechanic, huh? Hey, T is probably some of y'all's favorite mechanics, and if it is, I won't judge. Just kidding, I am judging you. Fuck you fucking Gooner, I'm kidding, guys. We like all types of Fire Emblem players here. Where's Sauna, C tier. I like the bonuses a lot. I hate the minigame though, it feels fucking random. Why is Sylvain less tanky than Dorothea in the sauna? Are we serious? Is he that pussy? Greenhouse, D tier. Now I know this is actually a really nice thing to optimize, but I just don't want to learn how to optimize this shit, because I know it gives you stat boosters and stuff, and you want to optimize that if you're winning the Three Houses stat race or whatever. I just personally don't want to focus. I want to play Fire Emblem, bro. Deduce fucking seeds. Side quests. Nah, bro. The fucking fetch quests, it looks like somebody just pings you on Teams that's not even from your department and asks you to fetch some files for them. I'm good, bro. E tier. Fuck this shit. Tournaments, D tier. It's cool rewards, it's different than the arenas in other games. You don't get any XP, weapon ranks, or skill ranks though. It's alright. Wastier. For all of my matchmaker Fire Emblem fans out there, you can spend Renown to influence paired endings or strengthen supports between two characters. Personally, I actually like letting the paired endings happen naturally, because you can actually let that happen in this game, because the game will decide naturally based on whose support level is calculated to be the highest past everybody getting the A tier thing, so it always feels like a fun surprise. But sometimes you like seeing two people end up together, and sometimes you see some freaky ass support.
Oh, you want me to
Take advantage of you, eh?
What? Huh?
Why don't you come
To my room.
I thought of something you
Can do for me.
Hilda! What the fuck?
Whipping up love in a kettle, like love. Actual romance.
We're done. We're done. Okay, let's talk about Divine Pulse. When it comes to Divine Pulse, there are two types of players here. You've got the one where they don't want anybody to die and they'll reset the map until nobody dies. And then you have the hardcore players who almost never reset, like the Iron Manners, because they calculate everything perfectly, or because, oh, somebody died? Tough shit. I'm gonna stick with this. I personally think it adds to the experience if you just stick with it, because you actually remember, it's like, oh shit, I made that mistake. No, I missed this guy who died. No, you know what I mean? I actually think Divine Pulse benefits both groups here. For the resetters, it's obvious. Instead of replaying the first 30 minutes of a map from scratch because somebody got crit, you just rewind a turn and keep playing. But I actually think it helps the hardcore players too, because the existence of Divine Pulse encourages the developers to make maps that are harder. Three Houses Manding has ambush spawns to do that, but more importantly, it gives you a little safety net, and there are limited charges of Divine Pulse. And when you run out of Divine Pulse, the lock-in is actually crazy, bro. I've never locked in more in my life. Now, it absolutely has a downside, right? I'm not gonna lie. It makes you lazy. It definitely makes you lazy. I think after playing Three Houses, I am now a worse Fire Emblem player. Instead of checking every enemy range, calculating every damage number, making sure you're outside, running straight math, running in your head, sometimes you just go, I'm gonna try this shit. If this goes wrong, I'll just pulse it back. And like that's real. It makes you really lazy. I definitely found myself relying on it sometimes more than I probably should have. And I do think it takes a lot of your classic Fire Emblem fundies of calculating everything before you commit, because each little decision should feel very, very, very detrimental. But for me, I think the positives outweigh the negatives. And especially for the people who have to work 9-to-5 jobs or have a really difficult university program and don't have time to be spending way too much effort playing a video game, sometimes you want to be play lazy while playing your video game. And that's why I'm gonna go ahead and put Divine Pulse in A tier. Crests are one of the biggest missed opportunities in Three Houses, and I don't think I'm the only one who has this opinion. The story treats them like they're the most single important thing in all of Fodlan. They determine nobility, inheritance, politics, heroes' relics. Entire wars are fought because of crests, but then you actually get into gameplay and they barely do anything. Every crest has its own little bonus. Maybe you heal a bit, maybe you conserve, maybe you deal some extra damage, but they're so small that they activate so randomly that I never actually plan around them. Once they happen, they're like, oh, that's cool. If there was ever a mechanic that deserved to have a huge impact on gameplay, it was this one, and the story gameplay integration just really failed here. The game spends the entire story building crests up as a defining feature of the world, but when you actually play, they're basically just little passive bonuses that occasionally pop up. Now, I don't necessarily think they should have been overpowered, but I do wish they had a much bigger presence in gameplay, because right now there's a pretty massive disconnect between how important crests are in the story and how little they actually matter once you're in battle. And because of that, I'm going to have to put this in C tier. It's pretty underwhelming in gameplay, especially considering how impactful abilities and combat arts are. Speaking of abilities, let's talk about the rework of abilities in Three Houses. Now, we already covered the class mastery skills. We're going to be talking more about the prowess and the ones that you get from just leveling up your ranks, not the ones that you're mastering in your classes, and overall just the rework as a whole. So I know this isn't a Three Houses thing, but I'm gonna complain a little here. In classic Fire Emblem, every character is kind of stuck with what they've caught. Maybe they have like one personal skill, maybe they have no skills, right? A huge part of the strategy in Fire Emblem comes from working around your limitations, and you usually have a lot of limitations. You don't get to customize everything like a regular run-of-the-mill RPG. You don't get to build the perfect unit, you make the most of what the game gives you, right? And this is the style of Fire Emblem that I prefer, and this is why my favorite Fire Emblem games are 6, 7, Radiant Dawn, Path of Radiance. And there are Fire Emblem games that go into the complete opposite direction and focus more on crafting and building the best build. Being Engage, Awakening, and Three Houses is one of those games. So you've got 5 ability slots, class mastery abilities, personal abilities, abilities from weapon ranks, and you're constantly mixing and matching builds. And while I don't think that's the direction I'd want the series to go in, it's gonna go in that direction. I think it works really well for Three Houses because this entire game is built around customization. You're planning classes, you're planning weapon ranks, you're planning exams, you're planning class masteries. It would honestly feel weird if abilities weren't customizable, obviously. So my biggest complaint is that it gets a little oversaturated. Like I mentioned before when I was talking about goals and stuff, I do spend more time looking at menus than actually playing the game, which isn't a bad thing, but you know, for me, Fire Emblem has always been solving the map with limited resources. That being said, the ability rework is definitely something that this game was centered around when it developed, and I think it works really well for this game and is obviously a necessary evil for Three Houses, and so I think it's a solid B tier because for this game in particular, it's a great mechanic that I really do like, but I'm just a little scared that if it does return like this in Fortune's Wave as well, I'm no longer going to get my scarce resource management Fire Emblem that I like. Next up, we have Forging and Ore. So Forging has been around in Fire Emblem before, but this is my favorite implementation about it because I used to hate Forging in Fire Emblem. I thought it was just so weird to spend your money to just customize the stats on your weapon. I never really used it that much, except for in the Telius games a little bit. I used it in Fates a little bit because I like how you spend ore in this game, and similar to that game, Three Houses also has ore. Every time I saw that Umbral Steel drop, I was acting like, hell yeah, baby, because whew, I need some Umbral Steels. If I upgrade this Brave Axe now, that's ore I can't spend on another weapon later, and I like that trade-off. It also feels really satisfying watching the same Iron Sword slowly become a Steel Sword, and then a Steel Sword Plus, or a Silver Sword, whatever you want it to be, you know. Your weapons kind of grow alongside your army, And something that I also like is that in the past you had hammer and staffs, right? But if your thing ran out of durability, it was just gone. You can't hammer in it. When your weapon runs out of durability, it becomes a broken weapon instead of just disappearing. So you can use that final point of durability. You can just forge or repair it later. I'm gonna put it in A tier. I really like it. Okay, next we have the combination of Super Canto and Dismount. So dismounting, dude, your Wyvern Lords aren't worried about forest stairs or effective damage anymore if you use this. You can just toggle it on and off whenever you want. Like, you're just treating the Wyverns like rental cars. It's fun, but it's also a little too strong. Once you combine Super Canto with things like Dance, Warp, Movement, ooh, it's fun, but Dismount will be better if you actually had to spend your turn dismounting it, but since it's like a toggle, like just going in and equipping your weapon and you can do it after you toggle on and off. It's hard to complain about the brokenness because flying around the map, attacking, repositioning, then dismounting exactly where you want is pretty nice, but it's just unbalanced. It's just unbalanced. I will put this in B tier. Okay, next up we have a fan favorite mechanic, Adjutants. So I love this mechanic because one of the biggest problems in Fire Emblem, not problems, but like pet peeves, just the deployment slots. You got so many likable characters in every Fire Emblem game, and you don't get to use all of them, right? So Adjutants definitely helped out a bit. You don't get too many, depending on your professor level. You'll get 3 at the most, but it's just nice that even if somebody isn't fighting, they're still contributing. They're building support, getting class mastery, getting experience, helping in combat, and making it so that they can develop. Plus, Adjutants are actually pretty integral to the way you play the game. Not wasting your turn healing when Lysithea could be nuking something instead is really nice when the heal Adjutant does that instead for you, and the guard Adjutant makes it so you can't get one-rounded. I like how consistent healing and guard Adjutants are in this game a lot because they actually have a consistent mechanic to strategically plan out, which is really nice. Let's just pretend attack adjutants don't exist. But it's also a nice way to balance against the flying units because the flying units can only get attack adjutants. More than anything though, I just love that it lets me bring more of my army, right? Maybe Annette or Ingrid or Bernadetta isn't making my final team, but I can still have them contribute by slapping them as like a heal adjutant on Felix or something. So that's a smart way of solving one of Fire Emblem's oldest pet peeves. Easy S tier. I love adjutants. Now we talk about accessories, and accessories was something that I thought was cool whenever it showed up in FA9 with your Night Ward or getting like a Delphi shield in the GBA games. It was always a nice touch, but Three Houses just really makes it work. If you equip an accessory, you get a small little bonus. You can get extra movement ring, speed ring, crit ring, stuff like that, staves. It doesn't overcomplicate anything because sometimes simplicity is better than something that's too oversaturated and just knacks your brain too much. I actually like to compare accessories in this game to the Radiant Dawn skill system because it's just pretty simple abilities that you can just take on and off and decide who can make use of this valuable item the most. In fact, I almost think accessories balance out some of the other systems in Three Houses because they're just refreshingly straightforward. Simple mechanic with a big impact. I will put this in B tier. Next up, let's talk about the avatar in Byleth. Now the avatar, I almost didn't want to include it because avatars have become a staple in Fire Emblem games now. It's been so many games in a row, if you don't count Echoes, since FE12 that you had an avatar. I thought I would still put him in because Byleth is pretty unique and I want to talk about Byleth. I usually prefer when a main character is, well, an actual character, like Ike, Hector, Leif, Ephraim. You know exactly who they are because they have their own personalities and motives. Byleth is intentionally much more of a blank slate, but the thing is, you can't edit the way he looks. You can edit the way Corrin looks, Robin looks, Chris. You can make Chris look like whatever the fuck you want. Byleth, you can only choose male and female. But I like Byleth. I think Byleth is my favorite avatar, which doesn't say that much because I hate every other avatar, but Byleth is my favorite. Good enough to be in C tier. Along with Byleth, I have to talk about Sothis as well. Sothis is actually a character I've grown to appreciate a lot more over time. I know a lot of people hate her and compare her to Morgana from Persona 5. They literally have the same voice actress, but I think Sothis is handled way better. Morgana is constantly talking in every action you do, constantly reminding you of things even when you're in your 100th hour of the game. Sothis really isn't like that. She pops in every now and then, explains a new mechanic, comments on a story, slowly uncovers her own identity alongside Byleth's, and then once she's fulfilled that role, she leaves with that epic fuse cutscene. One thing you'll notice a lot in TV shows and books and just all pieces of literature is that characters are usually introduced to serve a purpose. Once they fulfilled that purpose, the best thing that they can do for the story is leave before they overstay their welcome. And if they overstay their welcome, you'll end up hating that character. Sheik is a great example of this in video games. She teaches Link the songs, guides him through the second half of Ocarina of Time, and once she's taught him all of the songs, she reveals that she's Zelda and then gets kidnapped, and then, you know, her job's done. Adam Malkovich in Metroid Other M is another one. His whole gameplay purpose is authorizing your equipment and directing where you can go. Once that role is finished, they kill him off. You know, Sothis does the same thing. Once you've learned the mechanics, once her story reaches its conclusion, and once she fuses with Byleth, she's gone, and that's a good thing. Because if she was there for the entirety of the fucking game, I would fucking hate. Oh my. Anyways, I definitely would have gotten tired of her. I'm glad that they did the classic good writing thing of not overstaying her welcome. She leaves at exactly the right time, in my opinion. And from a game design perspective, I think that's a really underrated decision that doesn't get talked about. So I'm gonna put her in B tier. Okay, we're down to the final mechanic to rank. Thank you for sitting through so long of me talking. I've saved my favorite mechanic for last, and I know I've tried to be really objective with everything on this tier list, talking about game design perspectives and not letting my personal opinion butt in too much, but I don't fucking care with this last one, okay? I'm going to just personally spiel about spells rework in this game because I fucking love it. I fucking love it, bro. In older Fire Emblem games, you know how magic worked just like every other weapon, and then you had limited stave reuses, and you had to be careful. It's like, oh, I don't want to burn my rescue. Oh, I don't want to burn my warp. I need to save it for later. I need to save it for this chapter. Hoarding and shit. I think I said this earlier when I was talking about Forge and Ore, but I like that forging an ore kind of solves the hoarding thing because, you know, you can just forge it or repair it after, and I absolutely love that. But what I absolutely loved more is the spells rework, because you get a limited number of times per map instead of the whole game, and that's so much fun. I like to compare it to, if you guys have played Expedition 33, how they changed the classic SP in JRPGs in that game to start from 0 and fill up once every single turn, and it refreshes every battle. So instead of conserving your SP and not using your best skills, you now can go forth every single battle and get it, and that's just such great game design. For the same reason, I love the way spells are reworked. I love just being able to use warp without having to worry, being able to use rescue, being able to use my like fortifies and restores without having to worry about hoarding, the pitfall of hoarding, you know, just go away and bolt that guy. It just makes Magic feel so much fun. I also love the personal spell lists. Those are sick. Those are so sick. Every character learns something different. When somebody reaches B Reason or A Faith, you'll generally get excited to see what they unlock because everybody gets different. There's also the black magic versus dark magic some people get. It's pretty nice. It's like, oh shit, I didn't know Hoppy got Wharf. You know, it's like, oh, I didn't know, like, I love the way spells work in this game so much. If you're watching this video, you probably have some criticisms for spells, and I do understand it. A lot of classic Fire Emblem fans will say that removing durability, remove strategy, deciding when to spend your last warp use is a strategic division, deciding when to burn your final rescue staff, you know, you have to save it for Takumi to one round Takumi in Conquest. I don't care. This is my favorite thing in this game. And that's why I saved it last. Because it's so much fun for me. I love it so much. Spells aren't competing with your resources anymore. They're now here full for you to just use creatively every single time. Merge them with the Super Canto. Merge them with how you use movement and combat art. So much fun. I feel so powerful when I have Linhardt, Hoppy, and Lysithia on the floor with warps, and then Flame and Constance with rescues. It's like, here's your toolkit for this map. Go have fun. I love that philosophy so much. The classes that double spell uses make it even more fun. Bishop, Grimoire, Warlock. I love the way spells work in this game. It's my favorite mechanic in this game, and I know not everybody is going to agree with this one, but that's okay. This is my favorite thing in Free Houses. So I'm going to put this at the very top of S tier in my tier list. Now, if you have opinions completely different from mine and don't agree with me, I have linked this tier list in my description so you can go make your own because it is public. And if there were some mechanics I missed and I didn't talk about in this tier list, because this game probably has even more weird janky mechanics from the top of my head, maybe like budding talents, let me know in the comments and I'll reply to every single one of you. Thank you so much for hearing me talk an hour about mechanics in this 6-year-old game. I'm super excited to see which mechanics make a return in Fortune's Weave and what new mechanics Fortune's Weave will bring, and chances are I'll make some videos on that. So subscribe, hit the bell to stay tuned for my Fortune's Weave content when that rolls around. And with that, this has been Peshcats. Thank you for watching and I'll see you guys later.